and then he's been great up until last week. I think last week was just
30.
One of those weird. What's
right?
that?
He's still top 30 depending on your scoring in most leagues. I know in ours he's number 30 on the dot in a PPR league, so he's still top 30 for the season.
And in regular, I think he's 23.
There you go.
If I'm not mistaken, I could look it up real quick. But he and Mike Evans were both top 25 predictions. I didn't have Mike Evans in my top 20. I'm regretting that, obviously. But both guys were guys who I felt were going to have, huge years relative to what the expectations were. I think that Matthews is a legit, a legit star. I just looked him up. He's tied for 27th. So I sold him too far. He's not as good as the top 25 yet, but he's close. Matthews is a legit talent, and I would trust him far more in this situation. I got time for one more question, J-Rock, just if there's one more.
Well, I'm just going to leave it out to you. Is there any other names that you want to drop out there for people this week before we wrap it up?
I would focus on, I didn't mention the Jaguars defense. They're a great play tonight. A lot of people are incentivized to start guys Thursday night just as a reason to watch a game, especially a game like Tennessee versus Jacksonville.
I want something to watch. I want something to root for.
Yeah, exactly. You want something. If you're going to root for something, Delanie Walker might not play. Tennessee's on their third quarterback. The running game is a mess. If you can contain Nate Washington, you've won the game. So I think that it shouldn't be too hard. I think the Jaguars are a fantastic defense to play this week. I think Jarvis Landry makes a comeback for Miami. I think the Dolphins are going to win that game against the Vikings. They almost have nothing to play for at this point except pride. But I think they'll get it together and they'll finally get moving on that. I think Mike Evans once again is an every week starter. That's kind of an easy call against the Packers. And obviously on the Packers side, you will not see a repeat of the Packers' poor performance last week. When you see a great team have a bad performance, everyone gets better pretty much the next week. If they don't let that get to them again. And that goes the same for a guy like Julius Thomas. Last week, only had 30 yards. He was a little bit slow coming out of the gate. They're working him back in. As long as he's healthy, Julius Thomas is the same Julius Thomas who was the number one tight end for the first roughly half the season. So people need to really not give up on those elite guys, as long as they're healthy. And I keep a close eye on T.Y. Hilton. He's a little bit hobbled. Reggie Wayne's been hobbled. This is a week when Dante Moncrief, it's up and down with Moncrief. He's hit or miss. He's boom or bust, feast or famine. This is one of those weeks. If one of those two Colts are not playing, Moncrief instantly becomes a potential top 20 receiver, and people need to focus on that. And finally, when it comes to the Rams, I've been pushing people. Sean Hill. I've been pushing people for the past 6 weeks or so that Sean Hill is a good streaming option. I told people on my blog last week Eli Manning would be a great streaming option. I'm calling Sean Hill a good streaming option. If you don't have a lot of good quarterback options, you could do a lot worse than Sean Hill. I think he's going to get 2 scores and about 250 yards.
BJ Rudell, author of Fantasy Football for Winners. You know what the other thing good about daily leagues like DraftKings? It means that fantasy football continues for us, my friend, all the way up until the Super Bowl. All the way up until there's no games to play, which I like just because I like playing fantasy football, so it doesn't have to end at the end of the regular season. So I look forward to, let's see, you and I will not, that's Thursday, is Christmas, so we'll figure it out. We'll get something on, even if we have to record something during the week, but we'll get some tips for next week because it's going to be championship week for a lot of people who aren't wrapping up this week. Good. So we'll catch up, and if I don't tell you on the air, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and I look forward to catching up with you again next week. You got it. My man, BJ Rudell. Have a good one, buddy.
Take care, Jared.
You got it. Thank you very much, B.J. Rudell, author of Fantasy Football for Winners, and we'll catch up with him again next week. Man, it's going to be some fun this week when we come here Monday. Well, no, Tuesday, because that's right, Monday Night Football. We'll have a championship. Somebody's going to win that belt. I can't wait to present this to somebody here this season. I play Santa Claus, man, and looking forward to handing this bad boy to somebody. I'm not giving up the ring, though, because that's mine. I'm just going to tell you now. My son, Little Jerry, dead in my spotlights for this weekend. I got to take you out. So it's the law of the jungle. I've got to eat my own so that I can survive. We'll talk about that next week. We got a lot to talk about when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Bo Pellini had a lot to talk about. He had some fun talking to his players. I don't know. Some people say unprofessional, but he felt they were unprofessional with him. CSU, they need to get professional real quick tonight. They've got number 6 Virginia Monsters in action. We'll talk about all of that and more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, wrapping things up here on the Sports Fix, coming up next.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Looking to upgrade your league trophy? Check out fantasyjocks.com for championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
Let's talk about the X's and O's of family entertainment. Every parent in Ohio knows the importance of being able to draw up an activity that'll get you out of the house for a couple of hours. But it needs to be affordable. It needs to be family-friendly. Above all, it needs to be fun. Now, let's talk about high school sports. Bang for your buck, school sports provide the perfect game plan for your family. You'll enjoy all of the drama and excitement competitive sports offer. You'll be supporting the future leaders of our community in a meaningful way. Best of all, you can take the entire family without breaking the bank. Heck, you won't even dent it. Now, enough chalk talk. Let's get out there and see what's playing at the high school in your community. School sports. Good for our kids, good for our community. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is Josh Tomlin of the Cleveland Indians, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live, final segment across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Wow, busy show blew by here today. Real quick, before I even get rolling, thanks to BJ Rudell, who just joined us, author of Fantasy Football for Winners, Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com, and of course, the BSK Kendall Lewis kicking things off in the first hour. Thanks to those guys. Looking ahead tomorrow, Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire, he'll be here tomorrow. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com with a scouting report of the Carolina Panthers, and I'll jump ahead of that scouting report and tell you guys that word out of Carolina is it looks like it's going to be Cam Newton practicing with the first team so far. Again, of course, there's a lot of time for them to make that decision, and we know Derek Anderson more than capable and prepared to step in as the quarterback, but it's looking like it may be Cam Newton at the quarterback position for Carolina taking on the Browns here, which is a different type of threat that you have to deal with. Both are good quarterbacks, but obviously you have a different style and a different type of threat. And then how much of that will be compromised, too, with the physical condition, I don't know. I wouldn't guess much, because otherwise you would go with DA. So I think if they're going to go with with Cam, then he's going to have to be able to do what he does. So that's going to be another set of weapons and obstacles for the Browns to deal with. We'll talk about that with Jeff Gorman tomorrow. Ryan Ruiz back in the house. He was down for the count last week. I think we all were. He joins us with some dog bones to victory. Man, he better dig deep for those. No pun intended. I just realized what I said. He better dig deep for those bones tomorrow as the Browns head into Carolina for a game coming up this weekend. But that's all coming your way tomorrow, man. We've still got some show to go here today. And let's do that. Keep rolling here. A couple of things. First off, looking ahead. Well, I'll look ahead here to Cleveland State in a minute. They've got a big one coming up here tonight. Last night, Ohio State, big victory for them. They've got the soft spot in the schedule we kind of talked about here before they hit conference play. Meanwhile, the Vikings have the exact opposite going on. They've got a tough slate coming up, not just here, but in their next couple of games. They've got some tough tests before they get to the start of conference play. Perhaps no tougher here than when they take on number 6 Virginia, who is looking to extend their start for the season to 10-0. They're 4-0 at home. Vikes just pulled themselves up to 5-5, 1-4 on the road here. And as we know, Vikings have struggled with teamwork. They've struggled with chemistry here this season. That's going to all be amplified tonight when you take on a team who's not only looking to win 10 in a row, they're looking for their 34th consecutive regular season home victory over an unranked opponent. Coaching staff talks a lot about what they are looking for out of Cleveland State here tonight on the Virginia side, how they're not looking past the Vikings. But, clearly that's the charge when you have a team up there and you've got a team like the Vikes coming in that can make their season if they come in here and make something happen. They gave Louisville a good run there throughout the early part of the season. And looking at this here, Virginia leads the nation in scoring defense, 47 points a game they've allowed. And, both teams defensive, I expect to see that here. Vikings have allowed 54 points a game as they've buckled down since the start of the season. But their problem has been offensively. In the last 5 games against Division I opponents, the Vikings have averaged only 57 points a game, and they have only shot better than 40% once during their last 6 contests against teams of that span. So Trey Lewis, he's averaging almost 20 points a game for the Vikes here. He comes off of 32 career high in that game the other night against Mount Vernon Nazarene, and he's going to need everything he's got and then some. The last time that it's not like this is out of the realm of reality. The last time the Vikings have defeated a ranked opponent, 71-58 victory over number 7 Vanderbilt, November 13th of 2011. As a matter of fact, I remember being at WHK the night of that game and then talking to Al Pulowski about that afterwards. It is their only victory in 17 games against top 10 teams, but it just happened a handful of years ago. As a matter of fact, that's just about 3 years and a month ago to the day, pretty much 3 years and 5 weeks ago. Vikings looking to do that again, make it their second victory. It's going to be incredibly tough, an incredibly tough one for them to do here. And no, actually, that game was at Vandy. Vashon in the chat room, he said that it must have been a home game. They went to Vandy and they won that game. That was Norris, right? Yeah, that was Norris's senior season when they were a really strong squad there. Yeah, they went and took care of that one on the road. I don't think it looks good for the Vikes here coming up tonight, but they can play some ball. Coach Waters got into them after that loss to Bowling Green last weekend. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the week. They bounced back, but again, I mean, it's an NAIA team. I mean, you can't even really look at that. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to need to show something here tonight. And the Cavaliers are going to put it to the Vikings. Vikings are going to have to put it right back. Cavaliers are holding teams to 32% shooting for the season. It's third in the nation. That's going to be one of the biggest problems facing the Vikings tonight here. They haven't played, though. Virginia hasn't played since, I think it's been almost 2 weeks since they played. They blew out VCU by almost 20 back in the first week of December, and it's been about a week and a half since they've been on the court. Meanwhile, Vikings bounced back out there after finals week, their last two. So we'll talk about this tomorrow. Definitely going to be exciting to watch. It's on television tonight. I believe it's on ESPNU, not the 3. It's on the ESPNU feed tonight. So national coverage for the Vikes. And I know Al Pulowski will be calling the game as well on the radio.